Uganda has currently been ranking among the moderate risk debt distress countries in sub-Saharan region, as Uganda's debt portfolio has tremendously risen to approximately 80 trillion shillings on nominal value. The technical talk targeting policymakers, civil society organizations, and economists had a dialogue to understand debt sustainability across the East African region, the legal frameworks, policies, strategies, interlinkages between debt, tax, social, economic, and other physical-related issues towards attaining prudent debt management. Parliament has on several occasions asked government to develop mechanisms that will ensure the country returns to a low-risk debt distress. Yasin Mayanja, a principal economist, notes that they have been working hard to ensure that there is an increase in revenue because Ministry of Finance learned that the most expensive money is the one that can be disbursed easily, highlighting the debt service as a share of revenue.
So here we see the different countries and where they fall. Again, this is Sub-Saharan Africa, so low risk, none. Moderate risk, that is where the majority of countries are, including DRC, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. Then high risk of debt distress, here we see Burundi, we see Kenya, and we see South Sudan.
Delivering a paper on how sustainable Uganda's public debt is, senior economist Fred Muhumuza called for revision of government's policies to get rid of wasteful expenditure while restructuring the type of loans that are got from IMF and World Bank.
Once you don't get those right, debt is always around the corner and you can always slip back. So you really need to see what have we been borrowing for, how have we been utilizing the money that we borrow. That is within our ability to resolve. Yasin talked about the large government and so many things really that we spend money on. It's not just the large government. If you look at the budget of Parliament alone, we know over 800 billion. That means we are spending over 2 billion per day on Parliament alone. So if you started there, you want to say, should we or should we not? And you can go around all different institutions, you find the same story in all those. And this is borrowed money, not really our own money.
He further advises on how best to assess the debt, as debt to GDP ratio was referred to as a structure that doesn't envisage the real problem.
You have a 10-year bond, you have a 3-year bond. You even have 3 months the treasury bills. We never look at them as debt. But it's literally money the private sector has given you for a fee. Now, a 90-day treasury bill can be at 9%. Meaning every 3 months, you must pay 9% to these individuals. Now, that's a cost you want to avoid. You get to Japan, their debt is 264% of their GDP. But it is at 0.6%, not 16, 18% for Uganda. But also Japan, the debt is owned by the nationals, the debt is owned by their central bank. So even when they pay, they are paying their own nationals. It's not a leakage out of the economy. So we need new parameters of understanding where are we in terms of debt. The other main thing is debt sits in the future. So it's a futuristic variable. Your trouble with debt is sitting in your future.
Debt accrued by countries is sustainable. For us, is not very feasible. One, because it looks at debt to GDP ratio is being used by all countries, both the developed and developing countries. And for us, what we think is that there is definitely need to put into consideration other factors, such as the structure of the debt that's being accrued, in terms of how much it costs the countries, because we see that for developing countries, the cost of debt is quite high. We tend to pay very high interest rates as opposed to the developed countries.
On the other hand, George Odong drives the focus of the audience to the public debt ignorance per capita, as most Ugandans don't even know the burden of public debt, yet it is from them that the revenue is collected.
It's something that we talk about in our boardrooms, but we are saying the public has a right to know, because debt servicing is largely from taxes. And it is us, the citizens, who pay those taxes. So we have a right to know what our debt situation is.
Whereas multilateral lenders remain the largest source of Uganda's credit, the share of loans from China and commercial banks have been ranked quite high, as World Bank and IMF contributes the most. The report also lists China and commercial banks as some of the largest sources of Uganda's external credit. Policymakers, MPs at the national and regional levels have a role to play towards following up on the implementation of the EMU protocol while looking at issues like transparency, accountability of debt, since many African countries have limited access to resources to reinvest in their economies, resulting into persistent debt crisis. Therefore, we must identify viable solutions to get out of this debt trap. Ronana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.